All right, how's it going? So we're just gonna start off. We can just show this. Unfortunately, I have no beers to open. Probably should pick some up before the stream today because I'm gonna need it. But
Titanium
yeah,
Spirit
let's just
Shield.
let you guys watch
Exercise.
this. So this is the craft that I was trying to do to make a really good shield upgrade.
Just give me my.
So for reference, I was going for fire damage, +1 fire gems, life on the prefix. Then on the suffixes, hopefully some good res, spell crit, something like that. That was the plan. This is what we ended up with. Luckily, yesterday was faster. We had a couple people in chat that had a lot of the corpses that I needed. I paid for all of it. It was roughly, I want to say, about 5 divines because I self-farmed most of the corpses, but it was a full 88 corpse craft. As you recall from the video yesterday, I was saying you don't need 88. Unfortunately, yeah, in terms of high-end crafting, you really do want to get close to 88 corpses. We did all the math and everything, and unfortunately, like the difference between 60 and 88 percentage-wise is going to be so extreme that it is worth putting the effort in. Anyway, this is what we ended up with. We did not want life regen. We don't mind fire res. The res is okay. And the avoid ailments is mathematically kind of okay. Do I still have the shield? I do still have it. So that's what we ended up with. And we did the math exactly correct and everything. We actually had multiple people in chat that were running the numbers. We had people that, well, I had all the eggheads on the job, making sure, like actually cross-referencing between the Craft of Exile tool and their own spreadsheets and making sure that we found out this was exactly mathematically correct. We had the exact number of modifier tier rating. We had everything that we had here. And I think this worked out to be a 80-85% chance to hit something that was going to be acceptable, which for going for a top tier item is really good, of course, right? You're like, hey, I can make my perfect shield with an 85% chance of success. And it is theoretically pretty all self-farmable, right? Like I actually would argue that this is pretty SSF friendly in terms of a crafting method. You could farm all of this up within a couple of days of dedicated farming, not casual farming, but dedicated playing the game, going for a corpse farm setup. There's nothing hard to farm here. I do want to emphasize here that this crafting is very, very powerful, particularly for mid-range things. And this is what I want to highlight. If this were particularly a mid-range shield, it would be really good. If you're an SSF or if you're just getting started, you just got to red maps, you're farming corpses, and you put this together, you would be very, very happy. However, over a week into the league now, once we start getting a decent amount of currency and we have some money in trade, items like this, unfortunately, just have little value. Like, I can't even sell this at 2 to 3 divines right now. And in terms of buying the corpses, the value of them, like, if I had to buy all of them, we're talking 10 plus divines for a full plot, and we're talking hours of trading. Really, the big issue here, to me, is how difficult it is to trade. I think they need to make the corpses less fiddly and make them bulk tradable. What do I mean by less fiddly? I emphasized this in the video yesterday, but the fact that monsters have names, level, and categories here makes them unstackable. Unfortunately, by making them stackable, you can't trade them, much like incubators, where incubators have specific levels. I don't even know where I'm dumping mine. Yeah, they have specific, like this, right? By having this weird little categorization that effectively doesn't matter. Like, I don't care between an eye level 83 or 84 incubator. I know how and why it matters with corpses, but they decided to differentiate these things in so many different ways. And it makes it so they just don't stack and you can't trade them in an easy way. That's my one final, like, real big ask here that I think makes it just a little bit too painful. I'm actually okay with the monster level. Most people are farming eye level 83. A nice thing would be if you could search between, stack it in eye level like 80 plus or something in terms of searching for bulk. So I think it's okay. It's a very powerful crafting method. I do think it's very SSF friendly, which is pretty cool. Like, usually in SSF, you're going to have this ceiling for how good of items you're going to go for how much time you want to put into them. And with this crafting, you can actually kind of push it to the next level, and it'll take a while. But if you spend a couple days farming for each gear upgrade, you can go for perfect or nearly perfect items, which I think is really cool. However, in a trade situation, I want to show you guys the flip side, and that is this. So after the failed craft yesterday, I was in a bad mood. 2 days of the failed crafts and just hours and hours of farming, tens of divines being spent, and ending up with things that I can't even sell for a couple divines. That's a very big turnoff. So I decided to just go back to old school and force something. So what this craft was, and I'll write it down here for you guys really quick if you want to recreate it. This is the sheet that I made. This is people talking about ratios of going for scarce and everything. We had to collect all these, 26 fire corpses. it was intense. But anyway, the crafting method for this shield, I went old school, and I didn't even have to open up Craft of Exile or anything. I just used my old knowledge. You know, this maybe I'm just being a boomer here. These were the steps. Buy fractured fire gems shield for 4 divines. Hit 30% quality in 5 perfect fossils. Buy and spam deafening essence of greed until T3 plus fire damage. So this is the hard part about it. You can also just go for scorched fossil spam until you have T3 plus fire damage and hopefully life on the prefix. That will be cheaper, but you are not going to get the T0 life on the prefix there. This is the more expensive way. This did cost me 10 divines. So obviously more expensive upfront cost, but I was able to just spam it and go for it. Then I did prefixes can't be changed, reforge crit until T3 plus spell crit. This was 6 divines. I had to do 3 of them. Prefixes can't be changed, veiled orb until good unveil. This was 4 divines. I only did it once. I got a good unveil. And also my veiled orb, this was self-harm, so I already had one. So I didn't spend that, but sure, I'll count it. So total cost, roughly about 30 divines for the total cost here. Much more expensive to make this and force it. But for me, it was so much less painful than spending hours and hours of trading. Conversely, doing graveyard craft, we're talking about 10 divines spent plus 4 to 5 hours trading minimum. Also, mental damage from all the trading. With that in mind, we effectively break even as long as we're making about 2 to 3 divines an hour. 15 plus 10, 25 divines. Assuming you're making 3 divines an hour right now, you're roughly spending 25 divines of your time to craft this item. And that's the thing, like really that trade cost. Granted, you can self-farm it, you can go for the corpses and make money along the way, put together the plot over time. And like I said in the video yesterday, that is really, I think, the best way to do it, is kind of have a planned craft, do your regular farming, and then you'll slowly put those corpses in, have your list of corpses that you want to farm for, and then slowly put them in. And then when it's filled up, you do your craft. If it hits, great. If it doesn't hit, you are still doing your regular stuff, and the opportunity cost wasn't really crazy. Kind of the argument against that, though, for me, is the cost of the corpses itself. Because you can be on the other side of that and selling all those corpses for an additional 10 to 15 divines instead of using them yourself, you have no risk whatsoever. For a similar price, you can craft basically the exact item that you're looking for with less risk and, at least for me, less like build up to a big event and a big disappointment. It was so mentally draining. That was rough for me, man. I know a lot of people are super, super excited about the graveyard farming, and I'm not being a downer about it. I just think it's important to be very realistic about these outcomes. Mostly what I see out there right now is people just being purely excited about all of the upsides, everything, just like, I got this item and this item and this item. There are enough, you know, not horror stories, but just disappointments and buildups to something that just isn't getting you where you want. And I think it's important to keep the realistic side of things in view as well, and not just focus on how crazy, incredible, insane this is. This is the best thing I've ever in the entire video game. Anyway, that was my experience yesterday. I'm going to keep doing it. It is the League mechanic. I'm going to keep experiencing it and trying to craft items. So yeah, today on stream, I'm going to start the stream right after I post this video. So you can join me on twitch.tv/subtractem. Would love to see you guys there if you want to see more crafting. We are going to go for probably a new amulet. So I'm going to be looking forward to buying a lot of gem corpses. If you have any gem corpses or fire corpses, I'm probably going to want to buy them. I'll buy them at a very solid price. If you want to offload them for an easy trade, I'll be here and I'll be trading for hours and hours. That's going to be the plan. Go for a nice +1/+1 amulet. If it fails, what I'm probably going to do is do the exact same thing, buy a fractured base, and then craft up the exact amulet that I'm looking for. And then we can compare the prices and everything that goes into it. And then we can keep this comparison going of looking at maybe this craft isn't really good for the graveyard crafting. And I think that's kind of a cool contrast to do, is like, hey, we planned this out. Maybe the old school crafting still has some viability there. So yeah, I'm going to go pick up some beer, get ready for the crafting tonight, and I hope to see you guys there. All right, goodbye.